It was a bright, warm, and sunny day in late May. We were all in the car. That's right, my friends Chad, Steve, Frank, Colin, and I. Reason being, we were now crossing over the bridge that goes over the bay and onto Assateague Island State Park in Maryland. We'd spend the next few nights camping out on the beach and go into Ocean City for dinner and such. The weather was beautiful. We had just graduated high school and we're all down for some nice good beach time and relaxation. Anyway, we crossed the bridge and got into the park. But first, we had to check in at the ranger station. "Hello, boys. How many of you nights we staying for?" he said. "Only 2, I replied. We paid and got us a permit. Once that was all taken care of, we cruised down the road and pulled into our campsite.
"Alright, bros, what are we thinking of doing first? It's a beautiful day. I think it'd be a real wise choice to sit up on the beach and chill with some lemonades," said Chad.
"Man, fuck that pussy ass shit, G. Man, we gotta do some sand digging,"
said Steve. Now, usually what Steve says is kind of questionable, but for once I could actually agree. Digging some things in the sand could actually sound pretty good. We brought shovels, buckets, and chisels, meaning we could dig some pretty cool forts. Anyway, we got a little snack break going, and after that, we headed on to the beach and simply started to dig a pit. The plan was to dig a massive pit with like a 16-foot circumference. The plan would be to dig that pit with like nice walls and everything, so that we can sit in it and have like a bonfire inside once nighttime rolled around. It'd be a chill way to enjoy our drinks whilst the sun went down on the ocean waves. "Alright, well, we should probably get to digging now," said Colin. We did just that. We started digging with our shovels, but there was a problem. 30 minutes in, and Colin and I were really into it. We take a break to sip some water. That's when we realized that we were literally the only 2 people digging. Steve, Frank, Chad were all doing something else. Frank, Steve, Chad, you guys gonna help or what?" Colin asked.
"Don't worry, bro. I'll be right there. But you see, it's been a long car ride. It's always good to refresh your mind with some good old wave scenery. And the constant changing of scenery in the car can always be detrimental to the attention span. So we gotta take a moment to unwind, bro,"
said Chad. "Bro, you never make no sense," I said. "So, whatever. Just help us soon, please."
"Man, fuck that shit. Now, I wanna go surfing."
"Steve, this pit was literally your idea. The fuck do you mean you want to go surfing?" I said.
"Man, I changed my mind. If we go to Ocean City, then we can rent surfboards. I mean, once I be hitting them waves, I'll be doing handstands on them and shit just like SpongeBob."
"Yeah, what about you, Frank? You gonna help us?" "No, Frank looked pretty lazy." This is no surprise, as Frank of all people is always known to be quite the lazy penguin, if that's what you want to call him. Anyway, we eventually convinced Steve to help us dig for a little bit, on the condition that we promised to rent him a surfboard later in Ocean City so he could do his surfing. Anyway, another hour passed, and we had a pretty sizable pit. We're now doing some width expansion to make our desired circumference. Next, we started carving our couches for the bonfire. 2 hours later, after a lot of hard work, and we were finally done the pit. It all came together quite nicely. The walls were chiseled perfectly. We had 5 couches for each of us, with cup holders and everything. Next, we gathered some firewood and prepared the layout for the water, or for later. The plan next would be to go to Ocean City to walk around the boardwalk as well as eat some dinner. Once evening hit, we'd come back and light up the bonfire.
"Sounds like a plan to me, bros."
"Alright, man, come on. Let's do that. We gotta hit up Ocean City, G,"
said Steve. And so we do just that. The time was around 5:30 in the evening, so we all grab our stuff and change out of our sandy clothes, taking turns in the bathroom, of course. Next, we hop back in the car, and 10 minutes later, we're pulling into the Ocean City parking lot right next to the boardwalk. We paid the parking fee for around 4 hours and stepped outside. The boardwalk in Ocean City was packed and lively as per usual. It was senior week that week, so we already knew all the hooligans, the S-Week boys, would be hopping around doing all their nonsense, if you know what I mean. Anyway, the boardwalk has all sorts of shops and little ice cream places and restaurants along it. Perfect if we're scouting out our options for dinner.
"Man, we gotta go in here, G,"
said Steve, pointing out to some random shop. "Steve, can we just go somewhere for once without you wanting to get some dirty little shop of yours?" "It's like, why?" said Colin. Steve was referring to a place called Malone's. It appeared to be a dirty toy shop that sold all sorts of creepy toys, edibles, and such, that stuff. Steve, we'll go in later, I said. I said that with no intention of actually following through with my word. The goal was to get him distracted so we could go to dinner, as we were all starving. We kept on walking for a bit, but then we ran into some Assateague boys.
Yo!
They said. Oh shit, said Colin. I didn't blame them, as these boys were rowdy.
Yo, man, what's going on? We here, senior week,
one of them said. I then recognized who they were. Their names were, or his name, was Camus Thornton. He was one of the biggest troublemakers at our school. He wore his vape around his neck like a necklace, had sunglasses on, and a typical backwards hat. I could tell he had been drinking lots of beers, too. His friend, Brian Chooseman, was right next to him.
Yo, Nick, I just had 9 beers, he said.
Don't you think 9 beers is a little excessive? I said.
Nah, man, come on. It's senior week. We're just here to relax, man. Come on, it's chill, he said.
Anyway, we talked to the Assateague boys for a little longer before continuing down the boardwalk. Eventually, we found a good place for dinner. Or it wasn't on the boardwalk, but this place for dinner we had to walk like 2 miles to a place called 32nd Street, away from the boardwalk. People like Frank and Chad hated the walk. Frank whined.
Us, man, what's your bitch ass problem? Everybody knows you're a fat ass. You can't walk for shit,
said Steve. Anyway, the reason we walked that far though is because Colin had found a place, like an Italian restaurant. Quite the hard to pronounce name. Very fancy place though, and it looked quite expensive, but who gives a fuck. We walked inside and got a table right away. How you boys doing? Hey, how you doing? I said. Can I start you off for some drinks? Our waiter said. Chad got a protein shake. I had no idea why a fancy Italian restaurant served protein shakes, but they did nonetheless. Frank got a Sprite. Steve got a Mr. Pibb. Colin got a lemonade, and I simply got a glass of iced tea. Next it was time for our food. Chad ordered the double hoagie roll with extra bread, marinara sauce, along with a side of mozzarella sticks and onion rings as well. Frank got the bread rolls, or the garlic knots. My bad, just the garlic knots. It was a big bowl too. It was like the size of a nightstand. That's how many garlic knots there were. He squeaked. Next, there was Colin and I. Colin got the regular lasagna, and I got the clam pasta with olive oil. And finally, there was Steve.
Man, fuck all this pussy ass shit. I want crawfish,
said Steve. Are you sure you want the crawfish, buddy? They're kind of feisty, the waiter said.
Man, fuck you. You being feisty, bitch. Give me your crawfish,
he said. Anyway, the waiter disappeared into the kitchen with our order, and 10 minutes later, our food arrived. And we dig in. Tastes pretty good for the most part, though. I guess the waiter wasn't really kidding about when he said Steve's crawfish being feisty, as they were alive.
Yo, man, what the bitch? What the fuck off me, man?
Said Steve. A crawfish had leaped up and pinched Steve in the chin. Steve had to get a little mallet and kill all the crawfish one by one before he could eat. But once he dug in, the food was delicious. Anyway, after dinner, we paid and walked back to the boardwalk. The sun was setting now, and it was starting to get dark out. But the boardwalk was more lively than ever.
Alright, man, we gotta do some of that night surfing, G.
Fuck, Steve, I thought you'd forget about that. But no, Steve did not forget about the surfing. And I reluctantly went over to the rental shop, and so I rented him a surfboard. Steve, do you even know how to surf? Colin asked.
The fuck you talking about, man? Man, when my dad and I used to live in Italy, I used to be the big waves on that shit. We go to Hawaii and on tour and shit, too,
said Steve. Steve didn't hesitate any further. He grabbed the surfboard and ran to the beach, towards the water. It was clear he did not know how to surf at all, as he literally just got on the water and tried standing on the surfboard before promptly getting knocked over by a wave. After he quickly gave up, people gave him some pretty weird looks. And now it was for nothing. And he was all soaking wet too, which is going to be annoying since he'll be getting in the car all wet too. Anyway, after Steve's failed surfing attempt, we simply walked down the boardwalk a bit longer. I guess Steve's kind of embarrassed and didn't want people seeing him around that area because of what had happened, and I don't really blame him. But anyway, Steve wasn't done yet though.
Man, I gotta get some edibles for tonight, G. I gotta get half my ass, he said.
Steve, do you really need edibles here? They're probably like $70 or something. You know, the prices are all amped up around here, said Colin.
Fuck that shit, man. I don't give a shit.
That just means
they're more quality.
Now, I don't know if that was true. You know, places like Ocean City thrive off of peer tourism, and they definitely capitalize off marketing tactics like boosting the prices. Though I don't know how it's a marketing tactic, but you get the point. And I hated to say it, but next thing we knew, we arrived back at that Malone's place from earlier, you know, that dirty-looking shop. It was kind of suspicious, and should have been a red flag that there were no people around Malone's. I mean, like there should have been. There were people outside and everything, but inside, it looked empty. Anyway, it was also weird how Malone's was the only shop in that area that had a door to it. All the other shops didn't have a single door at all. They were all open and had some music playing and were all lively. Malone's, on the other hand, had some dim red lights on the inside. Like a red flag again, but again, we ignored it. We strolled inside and closed the door behind us. Some cheesy jazz music was playing over the speakers like some seductive stuff. The third red flag, that was. Steve, we should probably just get out of here. There's nothing good here, I said.
Man, come on now. This be my kind of shit, said Steve.
I don't know, Bruce. I don't know if I like this,
said Chad. Probably should have listened to Chad and followed him out of the store, but we didn't. Instead, we stayed inside Malone's with Steve. Anyway, that was a mistake, as just then, we could see who the cashier was working that night.
Good evening, boys,
he said. Oh, no, Colin exclaimed. It was the creepy clerk, the same guy from all our other trips in the past. I had no idea how on earth he got a job at Malone's at the Ocean City Boardwalk. I also had no idea how he knew that we'd be down there during senior week of all times. Bro, how did you know we'd be here? I demanded.
Oh, you know, I figured it's senior week and all. Some special mo is always down for partying out on the boardwalk at night. And as always, Malone's always down for some of the senior week festivities, you know. You know, boys, I may be getting older, but you know, the senior week festivities never leave, even with age. I'm still a teenager at heart, boys. Now, I say we do some senior week initiation here at Malone's.
Oh, no, I said. We don't want part of any of this. We don't want to be any part of your dirty schemes. You're fucking 50 years old. You should not be participating in any senior week festivities, I said.
Well, come on now, boys. Don't be so scrutinizing. We'll have our little fancies. Now, if I show you the back at Malone's, I'll show you good old times, some of my homemade toys that we've been whipping up here for giving senior week a little spice and half, you know what I mean?
The creepy clerk said.
Fuck yeah, man. I'm trying to get lit tonight. Let's go,
said Steve. Man, I had no idea why Steve said that. As Malone's really is not a place you should be with the creepy clerk of all people. We reluctantly followed the creepy clerk to the back nonetheless, and were then brought about to see all the creepy little toys that he had made himself. Everything from little bobbleheads of him to dildos.
I made these toys for special boys, he said.
Oh, no, you didn't. Guys, we're getting out of here right now, Colin demanded. I was all on board with that. Frank was too, but Steve stayed persistent.
Man, I'm not leaving here until I get my edibles first, he said.
Oh, you want edibles, boy?
I got some special ones up at the front. It'll make senior week extra special now.
The creepy clerk showed Steve the edibles, and we were all immediately put on edge. They weren't regular edibles of anything, but rather they appeared to be homemade. They were in a labeled container like a sketchy Ziploc bag. They were brown, mushy, and had no structure to them.
Man, these shits look sketchy as fuck. You sure you didn't tap these, man?
Oh, don't worry, boy. I made them homemade just for you. I even added a little spicy, you know? My little essence of senior week surprise.
Sold, bitch.
Steve then gave the creepy clerk a $50 bill and stormed outside. We followed out after him, but the creepy clerk, he signaled us back.
No, come on now, boys. Why don't you wait for me to clock out? I will be working overnight, but if you boys are always down for the senior week tonight, we could always call off work early, he said.
Oh, no. You stay right there. You are not leaving that shop, Colin said.
We'll see now, boys. We'll see.
The creepy clerk said as he creepily disappeared back into the balloons. Or into Malone's. My bad. He had a pretty creepy and suspicious look on his face. I could see him gazing at us with those same creepy eyes from back at Seabase in the window. Ugh, I said. Man, I fucking hate that dude. Same, Colin replied. Anyway, it's fine, Chad. Let's forget about the creepy clerk. Colin was right. We had to forget about the creepy clerk and his foolishness. It was senior week, after all. A nice, beautiful evening on the boardwalk. We weren't going to let some creepy dude in 80s-style gym trainers ruin the night. Anyway, we soon found Chad looking an ice cream cone at one of the local shops.
Well, bro, what now? I say we head up to Bruley Roger amusement park for some chill rides,
Chad said. Sounds like a good plan to me, said Colin.
Yeah, rides! Can we go on the Ferris wheel?
Frank asked.
Boss man, you always want to be a bitch and ride that shit. We gotta go, sir. We gotta get a tough man roller coasters,
said Steve. Now, I mean, the Jolly Roger amusement park wasn't really an amusement park like that. It was more like a carnival type thing. I just had a few rides, not really any true roller coasters. Though we head on over nonetheless. Turned out the Ferris wheel was the only thing that was open. You guys really want to go on this? I asked.
Fuck yeah, man. Let's go,
said Steve. We paid for our tickets and hopped on the Ferris wheel. Though, there's a bit of a catch. Someone else is getting on the Ferris wheel with us. And it was not a good thing, as that person was no one other than Herbert Ernie himself.
Hey, boys. Having fun at the boardwalk?
Herbert inquired. Herbert, what are you doing here?
It's senior week, boys. You know, the creepy clerk and I are going down for the senior week festivities. And he says that you boys are in ties with the senior week.
Oh, no. You're in ties with the creepy clerk? Herbert, get off this Ferris wheel or I'm going to call the cops, I said.
This Ferris wheel ain't quite to the scenery. Scoot aside, boys.
Herbert then squiggles his way into the already cramped Ferris wheel cart, leaving no room for any of us. Herbert...
I don't know if this is good for the gains, bro. We need space,
said Chad, but it was too late, as the Ferris wheel was already beginning to go up and up. We were enjoying the Ferris wheel ride, but we couldn't, because Herbert just looked at us with his creepy eyes and a cheesy grin on his chubby face as well. It was very uncomfortable and weird, and we couldn't even bring ourselves to enjoy ourselves with Herbert. The Ferris wheel ride felt like hours with Herbert on it. He smelled like a combo of B.O. and cheese. And I'm not going to say what that other stuff was. I'm trying to keep the story kind of mature, you know. Anyway, we got off the Ferris wheel and decided to call it a night. Hey guys, I'm tired. I just want to head back to camp, I said. Oh, man.
We need marshmallows.
And it was set. We all agreed to head back to camp, but not before stopping at the local grocery store to buy some marshmallows, so Herbert and Frank can make s'mores. Though, on second thought, only Frank. We were going to ditch Herbert. So Frank wanted marshmallows too. And luckily, Herbert, we got away from him and he was now gone. We don't know where he went, and we didn't care. As long as he was gone, that's all we needed to know. Alright guys, let's go before Herbert comes back, said Colin.
New Bruce. That's good. We don't want anything interfering with the gains anymore,
said Chad. We did just that. We headed back to the car and sped off. We grabbed the marshmallows at the store and 5 minutes later arrived back at camp. It was all the way dark outside now, but we were crossing the bridge, and I began receiving a phone call on Snapchat from an unknown user called Anonymous. I reluctantly pick it up. Here's our exact conversation.
Come on, boys. I thought y'all were staying at the boardwalk tonight. Senior week, you know,
the creepy clerk said. You again, I exclaimed. How'd you get my Snapchat? I said.
Oh, you know, it's a senior week tradition. It's called the senior week group chat. It's all linked together. Back to my phone. Now, since you boys are staying at Assateague tonight, you better watch out. Chief will be on patrol tonight. You gotta make sure some special boys always behaving, you know. So if Chief stops by, make sure to give him some of them s'mores now. Frankie boy, you know what you have. Some special s'mores for special boys,
the creepy clerk said. I hung up immediately. I didn't take what the creepy clerk said seriously at all. I had no idea how he knew we were staying in Assateague, though. but it was whatever. Anyway, he pulled back into the campsite and lit up the campfire from earlier. We were really glad we had built that pit, as it was super chill. We couldn't see any of our outside surroundings except for the sky and the campfire. We could hear the ocean waves crashing on the beach, which were very relaxing. We cracked some Monster Energies, and Frank roasted his marshmallows. This got him pretty hyper, as he was now acting like that one SpongeBob episode where SpongeBob and Patrick were camping outside the house with the marshmallows.
Oh, Frank to Steve! Frank to Steve!
But man, I am not doing that fairy shit like you. I have to conserve my energy,
said Steve. Anyway, next we decided to tell some campfire stories. It wasn't until Chad was in the middle of telling one of his bro Jim stories, as he claimed, that we heard something alarming off in the distance. Here's how it went.
So anyways, bros, I was hitting my bicep bro curls and the massive gains pumped with my pre-workout. But then
I had to cut Chad off though. Shh, I said. Listen. Off in the distance of the beach, we could hear the faint sound of a car engine coming closer and closer to us. I peeked out from the pit and saw headlights. Very faint headlights. I wasn't really concerned as I knew vehicles were allowed to drive on the beach, permit required and everything. And so I figured it was just probably, a park ranger coming to check up on us and everything. So we didn't really worry.
Yeah, man, quit your bitching. It's fine,
said Steve. Alright, we continued telling our stories, but that did not last long. Not even a minute later, and the vehicle pulled up right next to us. My heart sank when I saw that it was none other than a blue minivan. The driver then rolled down the window to greet us, and they stepped outside. It was a chubby, pear-shaped figure wearing a beach-themed park ranger uniform. I say that because they wore the typical park ranger uniform with the boots, knee-high socks, short khaki shorts, park ranger jacket, and hat. But they had a Hawaiian necklace on now for an extra beachy theme. It was no one other than Herb Durney himself. He was pear-shaped, chubby, and looked more crazy than ever.
Hey, Maurice, come on up here. Have it jump in my minivan. It's senior week, And, Maurice, had that candy. Had that candy in the minivan,
he said.
Ew, what candy?
Said Frank. Oh, no you don't, Frank. No you don't, said Colin, but it was too late. The thought of candy sent Frank sprinting to the minivan right into Herbert's trunk.
It's right, Frankie. It's good, Frankie boy licks,
Herbert said. Oh shit, we gotta go save Frank, I said. Though that would be easier said than done, because just then, Steve's edible he bought from Malone's was just beginning to kick in.
Oh shit, man, I gotta shit badly, G.
Steve ran off to the bathroom to go shit his pants or something like that. Something tells me those edibles weren't really real edibles in the first place from Malone's. Something told me that the creepy clerk may or may not have tapped them with like laxatives or something. Quite creepy and dirty. But anyway, we had bigger problems to worry about than Steve shitting his pants. Frank was now in grave danger. We chased after Herbert's minivan, which was only going at like 5 miles per hour on the beach. Soon, Herbert turned off the beach and back into the road before pulling into the ranger station. We were expecting park rangers to be there, but apparently it was empty as we strolled inside. This is what we were met with.
Good evening, boys. Seems like we reunite again now. I thought we were doing senior week, but if you insist, since it's late at night and all, this is the perfect place to do that, senior week initiation for special boys.
The creepy clerk then proceeded to do the unimaginable. He ripped off his pants, revealing 80s style gym trainers. He then went on to rip those off, revealing a pair of too tighty whities. Oh shit, run, I said. We did just that. But on our way out of the ranger station, we ran face to face into Herbert's chubby belly instead.
Where do you think you boys are going?
Herbert inquired. That was not good. We got the creepy clerk on one side, and Herbert, his chubby belly, on the other. They closed in on us, and proceeded to give Frank a smooch on the cheek.
Oh yes, and that concludes the senior week initiation, boys,
the creepy clerk said. That was it. The final straw. Colin got out his phone and called the cops. 5 minutes later, the police arrived, and Herbert, along with the creepy clerk, were taken away.
Oh, come on, boys. I'm just trying to have a fun time. You already know that.
the creepy clerk said as he was taken away in a cop car. It was around 10:30 p.m. at that point, and we really didn't feel like it, but we're so traumatized that we had no choice but to go home and call it a night early. It was close to 3 a.m. by the time we finally made it home. Our parents were pissed for us coming home that late, but we really didn't care. We simply went to bed and tried to forget about the whole thing. That then concludes the Assateague asshole.